Hello, welcome to the Warframe Collective. Today, I would like to talk about Soulframe because we just got the trailer for Soulframe not too long ago, and a lot of people's reactions have been mixed. So, I want to take a look at some things in the trailer and discuss a few things I think the trailer does right, and some things I think the trailer does not so right. So, without further ado, let's just dive into it. Now, to start, when you boot up the trailer, you get this cool shot of a bird flying across the open world environment. And the bird is flying across what I assume is going to be the primary environment that we'll be traversing through. It's a really cool shot, although they could have done a little bit more with the graphical fidelity. The shot is also cool because it shows what I assume is going to be enemies in their natural environment just doing their thing. And I like that when enemies aren't just idle, because when enemies are moving around and actually doing shit, as you see on the plains of Eidolon, it's cool because it makes the world feel lived in. And I feel like the trailer absolutely nails that, assuming this is going to be what actual gameplay looks like. As the bird finishes flying through the environment, the bird lands on the balcony of some pregnant chick, and you get a shot of her doing her thing. And yeah, when I saw this chick, the first thing I thought of was Jade. I don't know what's with DE and pregnant chicks lately, but yeah, she's a thing. Moving on, in the next shot, you're introduced to either your main character or what I would assume is one of your main characters. Now, the first thing I notice about this guy is he seems to be in some sort of resting animation. I'm not sure if that's an emote and the fauna is just reacting to him being there, because when he's ready to move, all the animals just wake up and disperse. The whole thing is actually pretty seamless, and it makes me wonder, why are the animals there resting next to this guy? Are the animals just there because they're drawn to his nature chakra? The whole thing is just extremely cool, and either way, I like it. Eventually, you see our main character warp to some sort of void space hub area. Apparently, as the devs explain it, you'll be building up this area as you play the game, like some sort of city or base or something. This is basically the equivalent of your ship in Warframe, and the whole area actually looks pretty cool. So I would imagine that once you build up this area and you fill it out with cosmetics and vendors, I would imagine the whole space comes alive and it looks extremely cool. And then on top of that, with all this empty space, plenty of room for DE to sell you cosmetics. As our main character approaches one of the vendors, a special little tune plays. It would appear that each vendor has their own little intrinsic music or something of the sort. I'm not sure. Apparently, this vendor also serves as your workbench, and as you approach her, you can see all the pieces of weapon, armor, and gear you collected, and I'm guessing everything can be assembled and reforged here through her. Now, if this is anything like Warframe, I'm guessing all builds are going to be on a timer-based system, but I could be wrong about that. Anyway, the dev said as you keep building and reassembling shit, the vendor will eventually become less self-conscious about her appearance. I don't know what that means. She looks cool to me. She looks cooler than our main character, actually, and that's for damn sure. Also, one of the things the devs wanted to stress is that they made sure to include one of the most important features, as you can also pet the dog. Anyway, as you approach this dresser right here, this serves as your arsenal, it would appear. This is where you'll swap out weapons and armor, and I do like the UI of this. Although I'm one of those persons that get annoyed when you hover over something and then a little pop-up appears, especially when that wasn't what you were trying to do in the first place. It looks like this may have a similar system to Warframe, because there are some things in Warframe that do that, where you hover over some shit and a pop-up appears and it's like, what the fuck? I already know. Anyway. As our hero departs, it looks like he can snap his finger in order to deploy a bird to show him where his next objective is. This is kinda cool. It's almost like a cooler version of the clairvoyant spell from Skyrim. This is where things get a little wonky. As my man spots a group of enemies, he goes invisible and stealths his ass over there. Once he gets into striking distance, he totally whiffs the backstab and the animation looked a little janky. And then on top of that, as he's rolling on the gravel, he's also sliding, which is kind of weird because he's on the gravel. The whole combat system just looked a little slow and clunky. Now, as a Warframe player, this combat does not look horrible to me. It basically just looks like a slow-ass version of Warframe combat. I think they just need to smooth things out a bit. And obviously, I'm biased considering the fact that I'm a Warframe player. I'm going to give DE the benefit of the doubt. But I guess to a player that doesn't play Warframe, when they're looking at this medieval style RPG sort of thing, the game design probably can be kind of jarring, I would assume. After he finishes taking out these enemies, he makes his way over to a cave in order to rescue this little rat that's stuck in the cage. Now, upon rescuing the rat bites his fucking finger, but I guess we need to follow the rat now. Anyway, as we start following the rat, we get our first boss battle. Now, once again, the combat looks clunky when you're looking at this boss battle because you're fighting this big tanky ass motherfucker. You're throwing your shield at this guy and it looks like your shield has no impact whatsoever. Then on top of that, the combat looks really janky, especially considering the fact that you're doing barely any damage. I bet if you adjusted that number value, people would think, oh, well, I guess that's not so bad. Because listen, people naturally want to play number go up in games like this. But when you're swinging at a big tanky ass motherfucker and your swings feel like they're doing almost no impact whatsoever and you're hitting for like 835 damage, you just feel extremely weak. But once again, this is from the perspective of a Warframe player. From a perspective of a normal player, they may not see anything wrong with this at all. Anyway, the boss ends up retreating and you continue to follow the rat. But as you continue to follow the rat, eventually you get phase 2 of this boss fight. Now, once again, the combat doesn't look horrible, it just looks a little wonky. And unfortunately, this time our protagonist is going to get his ass whooped and he's going to go down. And as our protagonist goes down, it looks like he's transferred into some kind of transcendental bird state where he gets a chance to fly back to his body. Kind of like in Mortal Shell, when you're knocked out of your shell, you get a brief opportunity to fight your way back to your body. As you continue, there's these points of interest where you can go because apparently you have an orc arena or some shit, so you can go to these points of interest and play a little bit of music on some Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time type shit. And I'm not sure if this changed the time of day because I'm not looking at my footage right now, because I know this motherfucker did do something that changed the time of day. And what it made me wonder is, if another player's on the map, does it just change the time of day for them too? Or is this just a specific instance? Anyway, moving on. So as you continue to follow this rat, eventually you're introduced to the Vermin Witch, or Vermina. And what I will say is, I really do like her character design. She's easily the coolest character I've seen in this besides the other chick. But if you've played any games by DE, you know that the chicks seem to always look cooler than the males, which seems to be a common theme. After all, fucking Warframe. But anyway, one thing that does bug me about Vermina though is her color palette, because She is such a cool character, yet her color palette consists of a lot of dull black and grays, and that kind of sucks. I don't know if we're gonna bring color back to this world over a period of time on some Pleasantville type shit, but I'm really not digging her color palette as well as a lot of the dull color palettes of the environments. Wouldn't that be some crazy shit if the whole reason her color palette was dull was so DE can sell you a color palette so you can color her? Okay, so as our character exits the cave, he encounters this Nimrod motherfucker again for phase 3 of this boss fight. And as our character is fighting this dude, he deploys a bird that actually changes the time of day. And so this is the specific instance I was talking about where he did some shit that changed the time of day. And it made me wonder, like, if this is a shared world, does that change the time of day for everybody, or does everybody have the ability to change the time of day? Anyway, I'm sure this is probably just an instance type shit. As you defeat this motherfucker, you return to your hub world, and apparently now that you have found Vermina, she is now available at the hub as a vendor. And it is at this point that you find out that Vermina is supposed to be Master of Colors. So maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe you will be able to customize her and unlock different looks and cosmetics for her. I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, this shit all looks kind of cool to me, but this is from the perspective of a Warframe player. I could see how a typical MMO RPG player might find the game design of this to be somewhat jarring, but I find it pretty cool. Well, that's pretty much the gist of it, guys. Keep in mind that this isn't out yet, so I would guess that some of this is subject to change. And if you know anything about Digital Extremes, they're very good at updating their game and changing shit. Hell, if you're a Warframe player and you ever took a 6-month hiatus, you've came back to the game and had to relearn a whole bunch of new shit. So you know DE is pretty good about updating their games. That's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Likes, comments, subs are all appreciated. The best thing you guys can do for me at this point is just to have a beautiful day. Peace.